Okay. Jai Srimati Kashi Shri Guru Gaura Chandraju Ki Jai. Jai Shri Giraj Govardhan Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paribrajaka Acharya Astatara Sutta Shri Sriman Srila Bhakti Sundar Govindadev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paribrajaka Acharya Astatara Sutta Shri Sriman Srila Bhakti Rakha Sridhar Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Srimati Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Welcome to Sri Caitanya Charitamrta morning class. Dandavat. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jita Padakamalam Shri Gurung Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vidangstam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vidangscha Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Haribo. Okay, continuing to read Sri Caitanya Charitamrta. We are finishing the instructions of Mahaprabhu to Prakashananda Saraswati Thakur, or Prakashananda Saraswati. And now he's very much submissive to Mahaprabhu, and he will continue on under the instructions of Mahaprabhu to honor the real purport of Vedanta Sutra, which is given directly by Srila Vyasadeva himself in the form of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And Mahaprabhu has also quoted many other verses to support what is being given there, that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is a personality, and that there's all variegatedness in his abode with so many relationships between himself and all these purely surrendered souls in divine Leela, and that this is eternal, and it has nothing to do with the constant flux and permutations of matter. And now we're on text number 152, and this again is Madhya Lila, chapter 25 in the 5th volume of Madhya Lila. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Dvaita Chandra Jai Gaur Bhaktivinoda
Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaur Bhaktivinoda
Vayam Tuna Vitripyama Uttama Shloka Vikrame Yachinvatam Rasagyanam Svadu Svadu Pade Pade. We never tire of hearing the transcendental pastimes of the personality of Godhead, who is glorified by hymns and prayers. Those who enjoy association with him relish hearing his pastimes at every moment. This is a quotation from the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Ateva Bhagavata Karaha Vichara Iha Haite Pabe Shutra Shutira Arthasara. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advised Prakashananda Saraswati, quote, study Srimad Bhagavatam very scrutinizingly. Then you will understand the actual meaning of the Brahma Sutra. Nirantara Kara Krishna Nama Sankirtana Helaya Mukti Pabe Pabe Premadana. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, always discuss Srimad Bhagavatam and constantly chant the holy name of Lord Krishna. In this way you will be able to attain liberation very easily, and you will be elevated to the enjoyment of love of Godhead. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, always discuss Srimad Bhagavatam and constantly chant the holy name of Lord Krishna. In this way you will be able to attain liberation very easily, and you will be elevated to the enjoyment of love of Godhead, not just liberation. Guru Maharaj says, by chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra purely without offense, liberation is just happening automatically without really being noticed. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur states that without studying Srimad Bhagavatam, one cannot understand the purport of the Brahma Sutra or the Vedanta Sutra or the Upanishads. If one tries to understand Vedanta philosophy and the Upanishads without studying the Srimad Bhagavatam, one will be bewildered and, construing a different meaning, will gradually become an atheist or an impersonalist. Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma Na Shochati Na Kankshati Sama Sarveshu Bhuteshu Mad Bhaktim Labate Param. One who is thus transcendentally situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed toward every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. There it is. Na sochati na kankshati. He doesn't lament about anything and he doesn't desire anything. This is a verse from Bhagavad Gita, 18th chapter. Mukta api lilaya vigraham kritva bhagavantam bhajante. Even a liberated soul merged in the impersonal Brahman effulgence is attracted to the pastimes of Krishna. He thus installs a deity and renders the Lord service, if he's fortunate. If he can come in touch with the divine sound of Srimad Bhagavatam, and that is given to him properly through the proper source, then even though he's merged in impersonal Brahman realization, that will awaken something higher in him. Parinistitopi naigurnye uttama lilaya grihita chetarajase akyanam yadaditavan. Shukadeva Goswami addressed Parikshit Maharaj, my dear king, although I was fully situated in the transcendental position, I was nonetheless attracted to the pastimes of Lord Krishna. Therefore I studied Srimad Bhagavatam from my father. And the father of this is Shukadev speaking, and his father is Vyasadeva. So even though he was totally seeing everything from the platform of Brahman, seeing everything as the one spiritual nature, he, hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam from his father, awoken a higher experience for him. Tasyaravinda nayanasya padaravinda kinjalka mishra tulsi makarandavayu antagata svavivarena chakara deshatesham shankshobhamakshara jushama pichitta tanvo. When the breeze carrying the aroma of tulsi leaves and saffron from the lotus feet of the lotus-eyed personality of Godhead entered through the nostrils into the hearts of those sages, the Kumaras, they experienced a change in both body and mind, even though they were attached to the impersonal Brahman understanding. This is a quotation from the Srimad Bhagavatam. For an explanation, see Madhya Lila, chapter 17. So this is also a glorification of Tulsi Devi. And we should never forget how important the service of Tulsi Devi is. Atmarama Shamunayo Nigranto Purukrame Kurvantya Haitu Kim Bhaktim Mitam Bhuta Guno Hari. Those who are self-satisfied and unattracted by external material desires are also attracted to the loving service of Lord Krishna, whose qualities are transcendental and whose activities are wonderful. Hari, the personality of Godhead, is called Krishna because he has such transcendentally attractive features. This is a quotation from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Henakali se Maharashtriya Brahmana Shabate Kahila se Shloka Vivarana. At this time, the Brahmin from the province of Maharashtra mentioned Lord Chaitanya's explanation of the Atmarama verse, which we just heard. We just heard that explanation from Mahaprabhu to Srila Sanatana Goswami. Many verses. Shlokera Arta Prabhu Ekashashti Prakara Karyachena Jata Shuni Loke Chamatkara. The Maharashtrian Brahmin stated that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had already explained that verse 61 ways. Everyone was astonished to hear this. Tabe Shavaloka Shunite Agraha Karila Ekashastri Arta Prabhu Vivari Kahila. When all the people gathered there expressed their desire to hear again the 61 different meanings of the Atmarama Shloka, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again explained them. Shunya Lokera Bada Chamatkara Haila Chaitanya Gosai Shri Krishna Shri Nirdarila. When everyone heard Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's explanation of the Atmarama Shloka, everyone was astonished and struck with wonder. They concluded that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was none other than Lord Krishna himself. Ekakahi Uttiya Chalila Gaura Hari Namaskara Kare Loka Hari Dvani Kari. After giving those explanations again, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu arose and took his leave. All the people there offered their obeisances unto him and chanted the Mahamantra. Shabakashi Vashi Kare Namasankirtana Preme Hashe Kande Gai Karaye Nartana. All the inhabitants of Kashi, Varanasi began chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra in ecstatic love. That is the divine influence of Mahaprabhu. Sometimes they laughed, sometimes they cried, sometimes they chanted, and sometimes they danced. Sannyasi Pandita Kare Bhagavata Vichara Varanasi Pura Prabhu Karila Nishtara. After this, all the Mayavadi sannyasis learned scholars at Varanasi began discussing Srimad Bhagavatam. In this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu delivered them. Nija Loka Lanya Prabhu Aila Vasaghara Varanasi Haila Dvitiya Nadia Nagara. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then returned to his residence with his personal associates. Thus he turned the whole city of Varanasi into another Navadvip, Nadia Nagar. Both Navadvip and Varanasi were celebrated for their highly educational activities. At that time, these cities are still inhabited. At the present time, these cities are still inhabited by great learned scholars, but Varanasi is especially a center for Mayavadi sannyasis, who are learned scholars. However, unlike Navadvip, there are hardly any devotees in Varanasi. Consequently, a discussion of the Srimad Bhagavatam is very rare in Varanasi. In Navadvip, such a discussion is quite ordinary. After Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited Varanasi and turned Prakashananda Saraswati and his disciples into Vaishnavas, Varanasi became like Navadvip, because so many devotees began discussing Srimad Bhagavatam. Even at the present moment, one can hear many discussions on Srimad Bhagavatam taking place on the banks of the Ganges. Many scholars and sannyasis gather there to hear Srimad Bhagavatam and perform Sankirtan. And this is, of course, in Navadvip. Varanasi, after some time, returned to its normal character, or being the seat of Mayavad discussion. Nijagana lanya prabhu kaye hasyakare hasite ami ailana vechite bhavakali. Among his own associates, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu laughingly said, I came here to sell my emotional, ecstatic love. And now emotional has a sort of negative connotation, but this simply means the emotion of ecstatic love, a divine emotion. Kashite grahaka nahi vastuna vikaya purnarapide shevahi laoya nahi jaya. Although I came to Varanasi to sell my goods, there were no customers, and it appeared necessary for me to carry them back to my own country, meaning my goods. I came here to sell my goods, but there weren't any customers, and I thought I was going to have to return home without having distributed them. Ambibocha vahimu toma shabara dukahaila tomar sabara ichaya bina mulye bilaila. All of you were feeling unhappy that no one was purchasing my goods and that I would have to carry them away. Therefore, by your will only, I have distributed them without charging. He didn't ask for anything in return. He simply gave them away. Right? When we began distributing the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Western countries, Srila Prabhupada is saying, a similar thing happened. In the beginning, we were very much disappointed for at least 1 year because no one came forth to help this movement. But by the grace of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, some young boys joined this movement in 1966. Of course, we distributed Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's message of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra without bargaining or selling. As a result, this movement is spread all over the world with the assistance of European and American boys and girls. We therefore pray for all the blessings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu upon all the devotees in our Western world who are spreading this movement. Shabe kahe loka tarite tomara avatara purva dakina paschima karila nischara. All the Lord's devotees then said, you have incarnated to deliver fallen souls. You have delivered them in the east and in the south, and now you are delivering them in the west, meaning the west part of India, the south part of India, and the eastern part of India. Ekavaranasi chila tometa tomate vimuka ta nishtarila kaila amashabara shuka. Only Varanasi was left because the people there were against your missionary activities. Now you have delivered them, and we are all very happy. Varanasi grame jadi kolahalahaila shuni grami deshi loka ashite lagila. After the news of these events was broadcast, everyone from the surrounding neighborhoods began to pour in to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Lakshakoti loka aishe nahika ganana sankirna stane prabhurana payadarashana. Hundreds of thousands of people came to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There was no counting the number. Because the Lord's residence was very small, not everyone could see him. Prabhu jabe snane jana vishvikshva. Vishveshvara darshane duidike lokakare prabhu vilokane. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to take his bath in the Ganges and to see the temple of Vishveshvara, people would line up on both sides to see the Lord. Anywhere he went, people were lining up to see him. Bahutuli Prabhu kahe Bala Krishna Hari Dandavat kare loke Hari Dvani kari. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu passed by the people, he would raise his arms and say, "Please chant Krishna, please chant Hari." And the people received him by chanting Hare Krishna, and they offered their respects to him by this chanting. E matadina panchaloka nishtariya aradina chalila prabhu udvigna hanya. In this way, for 5 days, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu delivered the people of Varanasi. Finally, on the next day, he became very eager to leave. Ratri uti prabhu jadi karila gamana pache lag laila tabe bhakta panchajana. After rising early in the morning the next day, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started to leave, and 5 devotees began to follow him. It's really astonishing when you think that we are so tiny in this world, and Mahaprabhu is intimately connected with every living being. Everyone is connected with him naturally, and he is the source of us. And he's coming and delivering all these living beings, all these living entities, out of his love. This is his natural feeling. And he's coming. But really, it's still astonishing. Krishna is astonishing. Mahaprabhu is astonishing. How does he even know who we are? So many living beings, and he knows every one of us. It's completely mind-boggling. Tapana Mishra Raghunatha Mahastriya Brahman Maharashtriya Brahman Chandrasekhar Kirtaniya Paramananda Panchajana. These 5 devotees were Tapan Mishra, Raghunath, the Maharashtrian Brahmin, Chandrasekhar, and Paramananda Kirtaniya. Shabe chahe Prabhu Shange Nila Chala Yaite Sabare Vidaya Dila Prabhu Jatna Sahite. These 5 wanted to accompany Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Jagannath Puri, but the Lord attentively bade them farewell. Yara icha pache aishe amareda kite ebe ami akajamu jarikanda pate. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "If you want to see me, you may come later, but for the time being I shall go alone through the Jarikanda forest." Sanatane kahila tumi jaha vindabana tomara duibai tatakariache gamana. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advised Sanatana Goswami to proceed toward Vrindavan, and he informed him that his 2 brothers had already gone there. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advised Sanatana Goswami to proceed toward Vrindavan, and he informed him that his 2 brothers had already gone there, the 2 brothers, meaning Rupa and Anupama. Kanta karangiya mora kangala bhaktagana Vrindavane aila tandira karila palana. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Sanatana Goswami, "All my devotees who go to Vrindavan are generally very poor. They each have nothing with them but a torn quilt. They each have nothing with them but a torn quilt and a small water pot. Therefore, Sanatana, you should give them shelter and maintain them. Following in the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we have constructed temples in both Vrindavan and Mayapur, Navadvip, just to give shelter to the foreign devotees coming from Europe and America. Since the Hare Krishna movement started, many Europeans and Americans have been visiting Vrindavan, but they've not been properly received by any ashram or temple there. It is the purpose of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness to give them shelter and train them in devotional service. There are also many tourists eager to come to India to understand India's spiritual life, and the devotees in our temples, both in Vrindavan and Navadvip, should make arrangements to accommodate them as far as possible. So that's another miracle, that Srila Prabhupada and Srila Gurudev made so many ashrams, places where we can stay and be maintained and perform so many services, and be able to live in Krishna consciousness, and places for people to visit also, and for programs and so many things. Very, very beautiful arrangement. Etibali Chalila Prabhu Shaba Alingiya Shabai Pandila Tata Murchitanya. After saying this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced them all and began to proceed on his way, and they all fainted and fell down. Katakshani Uttishabe Dukhe Gare Aila Sanatan Gosai Vrindavanera Chalila. After some time, all the devotees got up and returned to their homes, very much grief-stricken. Sanatan Goswami proceeded toward Vrindavan alone. Jai. Okay, so I'm going to come to this verse again tomorrow, and its beginning. So now Mahaprabhu has left Varanasi, and the devotees like Tapanisha, Chandrasekhar, the Maharashtrian Brahmin, they've all gone back to their homes because Mahaprabhu wanted to proceed by himself through the Jharikanda forest, and he said, later on you can join me in Puri. But now I want to go by myself. And he instructed Sanatan to immediately go to Vrindavan. And what was the instruction that he gave to Sanatan? That way. He said, take care of the devotees. They're generally very poor. They come to Vrindavan, they're just poor. They just have a quilt, some kind of blanket, a water pot, and that's all. So you please maintain them and take care of them. So now Mahaprabhu has gone, and Sanatana Goswami is now beginning his journey to Vrindavan. Jai Shri Caitanya Charitamrta ki Jai, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj ki Jai, Srila Om Vishnupad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Shri Upadesamrta. Do you have those printouts?
Yes, they're under here.
You want one? And maybe, do you want one, Brajadidi? Or you want one in the kitchen? What? Upadesamrita? Do you want a copy to follow? No, you're busy, I think. Okay, so we'll start with Bhakti-vegam. We can just read these together. Oh, this looks so wonderful. Jai. Srila Rupa Goswami Pad ki Jai. Sad Goswami Prabhu ki Jai. Haribol. So we'll just chant all the verses together, and then I'm going to go to verse number 2 to read the commentaries. Vacho vegam manasakroda vegam, jiva vegam udara pasta vegam, etan veganyo vishaheta dira, sarvam apimam pritiving sasisya. Leela is here? Atyahara prayasascha prajalpo niyamagraha Janasangaschaloyam cha sadbir bhaktir vinashiti. Overaccumulation, over endeavor, unnecessary talk, if misapplication of rules, association with non-devotees, and fickleness. So bhakti is destroyed by these 6 faults.
What was fickle?
Fickleness, unsteadiness. I want this. Nah, I'm not. I want this. No, I want to just be a devotee. No, I'm going to go and do this. No, unsteadiness. So in other words, lack of determination. Utsaha nishchaya dharya tat karma pravartanat shangatyagat sato vitte sadbir bhakti prasiddhyati. Enthusiasm, conviction, perseverance, engaging in favorable activities, giving up bad association, and following the conduct of the sadhus. Bhakti is nourished by these 6 qualities. And one of these is repeated in the verse 2 and 3. Verse 2 says, bad association is destroys, and giving up bad association is helping. Dadati prahigratnati guhyamakyati prichiti punkte bojayate jaiva sadvidam priti lakshanam. Giving and accepting gifts, discussing and inquiring about confidential matters, and giving and partaking of foods. These are the 6 characteristics of affection between the devotees. So, what destroys devotion, what helps to advance devotion, and the symptoms of affectionate dealings between devotees. Krishneti yasya giritam manasadriyeta dikshasti che pranati bishcha bhajantamisham. Excuse me. Shishrushaya bhajana vigyam mananyamanya nindari shunya hridamipsita shangalabdya. Honor within the mind those who chant Krishna's name. Honor with obeisance those who are initiated and serve the Lord. And honor with service those who are expert in bhajan, exclusive, and with a heart free from criticizing others. Know them to be the most desirable association. So this verse 5 about association. Different levels of association with different levels of devotees. Jai Shishi Guru Gaur Chandraju Ki Jai. Beautiful Mahaprabhu. Jai Giriraju Ki Jai. Jishtai Svabhava Janite Vapushascha Doshe Na Prakritatva Bhakta Janasya Pashed Gangam Vasangna Kalu Buddha Pena Pankhe Brahmadravatvam Apagachati Niradharmai. Do not consider devotees in this world to be mundane, as a result of observing faults produced by their nature or their body. The water of the Ganges never loses its nature as liquid spirit because of bubbles, foam, and mud, all of which are natural in water. So this is how to regard the Vaishnava. Sad Krishna Nami Charitari Sitapya Vidya Pitopatapta Rasanasya Narochikanu Kinvadarat Anudinam Kalu Saiva Justa. You can chant with me if you want. Swadvikramad Bhavati Tad Gadamulahantri. And then this is about the effect of the holy name on the jaundice of our consciousness. The sugar candy of Krishna's names, pastimes, and so forth is not relishable to a tongue severely afflicted by the jaundice of ignorance. Alas, alas. Certainly, however, when it is daily honored with faith, this candy gradually becomes sweet and eradicates the disease. So it is because of our disease that we are not relishing the holy name, but by relishing faithfully and regularly, carefully, this will eradicate the disease and we will begin to taste the sweetness. Or as Srila Gurudev says, naturally Krishna is a magnet. And why are we not attracted? Because there's so much rust on our iron. If an iron is covered with rust, it will interfere with its natural attraction to a magnet. So he said, clean your iron, and naturally you will be attracted to Krishna. Tannama rupa charitari sukirtananu smrityo kramena rasana manasi niyojya tishtan bhajetad anuragi jananugami kalam nayerakilam ityupadeshasaram. Engage the tongue and mind in the gradual process of complete glorification and constant remembrance of Krishna's names, forms, pastimes, and so forth. Reside in Braja and spend all your time as a follower of those who have deep attachment to Krishna. This is the essence of all instruction. So this is how we are to engage our lives. And this is verse number 9. Vaikuntach janito baramadipuri tatrapi rasotsavad vrindaranyam udarapani ramana tatrapi govardhana radha kundamihapi gokulapate premamrita plavanat kuryadasya virajato giritate sevang vivekina kaha. And this is the gradation of the abodes of the divine plane. Higher than Vaikuntha is Mathura, where Krishna took his birth. Higher therein is Vrindavan, where Krishna enjoys the rasa dance. Higher therein is Govardhan, where Krishna plays amorously. And higher than Govardhan is Radha Kunda, where the nectar of Krishna's prema overflows. Why would any wise soul not serve Radha Kunda at the base of Govardhan Hill? And now, in text 10 is the gradation of spiritual practitioners. Gyanis, Karmibhya padito hare priyataya vyaktim yayur gyaninas tebhyo gyani vimukta bhakti parama premaika nishtastata tebhyasta pashupala pankajadrishashtabhyopi saradhika preshta tadvadiyam tadiya sharashitam nashrayetya kuti kakiti. Gyanis are known to be more dear in all respects to Krishna than karmis. Devotees completely free from gyan are more dear than gyanis. And devotees fixed exclusively in prema are more dear than devotees completely free from gyan. The lotus-eyed gopis are more dear than them, and Sri Radhika is even more dear than the gopis. This lake of hers is similarly dear to Krishna. Would any fortunate soul not take shelter there? And who is saying this to us? A resident of that plain, Rupa Goswami. And how is it that he's saying this to us? This is what we find inconceivable. That means he is advising us, you do this, which means he is also giving us the blessings that this should be possible. It is very inconceivable. So I want to reread this verse because I think it's not super clear. Gyanis are known to be more dear in all respects to Krishna than our karmis, because they are trying to pursue knowledge of divinity. They don't necessarily have to come to the non-differentiated plane. But those who are free from gyan, they're more dear than those gyanis, because in devotion, gyan is left behind. Devotees who are fixed in prema are higher than those who are simply on the platform of having given up gyan. And the lotus-eyed gopis are more dear than those devotees who are fixed in prema in general. And among those lotus-eyed Braja gopis is Radhika, who is more dear to Krishna than all of them. And this lake of hers is similarly dear to Krishna. Would any fortunate soul not take shelter there? And then text number 11. Krishnasyo chai pranaya vashati preyasibhyo piradha kundam chasya munibhirabitas tadrigeva vyadayi yapraiste apyalam asulabham kim punar bhakti bhajam tapremedam shikritapi sharasnatur avishkaroti. Sri Radha is the highest object of Sri Krishna's love, and above all his other lovers. In all respects, her lake has also been established as such by the sages, meaning more dear to Krishna. This lake bestows upon those who bathe within it only once, that it bestows prema that is extremely difficult to attain, even for those who are dear to Krishna, let alone for practitioners of bhakti. So those devotees who are dear to Krishna, it is very, very difficult to attain what can be attained by bathing in the waters of Radha Kund only once. But of course that bathing is not a physical thing, not so easy. That is a very high thing. Okay, so page 61 now. We're on verse number 2. Atyahara prayasascha prajalpo niyamagra janashangaschaloyam cha sadbir bhaktir binashati. Bhakti is destroyed by these 6 faults. Atyahara, overaccumulation, just being burdened down by so much stuff. Of course, so much stuff can be like there are so many things in a temple, but they're all being used without possessiveness. It's the possessiveness that's the problem. So many things can be used in the service of the Lord, but possessiveness is the problem. Over-endeavor for a mundane thing, unnecessary talk, misapplication of rules, association with non-devotees, and fickleness. So I'm going to go straight to page number 72, and we'll read Srila Bhakti Raka Sridhar Deva Goswami's illumination. Atyahara means to collect for ourselves whatever we come across. It means to feed ourselves more than necessary, but it also refers to the tendency to want or keep for ourselves some portion of what we collect. So what we're collecting, if someone is collecting, then it's the possessiveness and also overeating. Eating more than necessary causes problems. Prayasa means false errands, enthusiastic attempts for undesirable false attainments. It refers to becoming too much adherent to any particular cause, except, of course, that of devotion. When one engages oneself to attain something, one devotes one's energy and one becomes mad. But we should not become so mad to go in any particular destination. Wait and see the wave. So that is a fine point. We can be doing many, many things. We can be going out, we can be working, But we don't want to do that at the expense of our devotional practice and devotional remembrance. But practice, we mustn't leave this out. We will not make that kind of progress. If we believe that the Lord is the cause of all causes, then we must practice this. Otherwise, we are hypocrites, going out and preaching something that we don't believe. So this morning I was thinking about this because I was remembering something that I saw someone doing something very cruel to another person. And I felt very disturbed by that. And it was disturbing my mind in the early morning. And I was thinking, what are you doing? He's lamenting. And then I thought, my Lord, but you wanted me to see this. And why is that? And then it's a very strange phenomenon, but you could see. But we have to see that the Lord's will is behind it, and that it is so magnanimous, really, really trying to disentangle us from so many false coverings over ourselves and false ways of seeing things. We have to wait. We want this.